When the genetically enhanced human warbeasts landed on the Trill homeworld, it was over for the insectoid scum in less than a day. 35 years old, 6'5" tall, and 280 pounds of shredded muscle, UEF SOCOM operator Jeffrey Simpson glared at the hologram of Zeta Reticuli 4 floating above the briefing room table. 5 years of bitter war, billions of human lives wiped out when the Trill destroyed the USS Harmony colony ship, claiming it violated their space. 5 years of the bug-like aliens exploiting their numerical advantage to push humanity to the brink. But now, the balance was about to shift. "We're going to cut the head off the snake," Commander Johnson said, jabbing a finger at the red blob indicating the Trill's central command center. "Infiltrate the CIC, grab that son of a bitch quasar, and get out. Intel says their defenses are no joke. Auto turrets, drone swarms, force fields. But you gentlemen are the first test subjects for Project Praetorian, state-of-the-art wetware, subdermal armor, and the latest in UEF weapons tech. Your reaction time, speed, strength, all enhanced beyond human norms. You're not SOCOM operators anymore, you're warbeasts." Simpson nodded slowly, eyeing his team of 5 elite soldiers. If anyone could pull this off, it was them. But the risks were enormous. They were the first to field test the Praetorian augmentations in combat. Intel on the target was limited. Countless unknowns. One misstep and they'd all be slaughtered, with no hope of victory over the Trill. The ultimate high-stakes gamble with humanity's fate in the balance. "When do we drop, sir?" Simpsons asked, checking the charge on his pulse rifle. 500. We only get one shot at this before the Trill relocate their HQ. I won't lie to you, we're hanging our hopes on this. You fail, and it's only a matter of time before humanity is wiped out or enslaved. You succeed, and the Trill will sue for peace once they see their precious quasar snatched out from under them. The fate of our species rests on your shoulders. No pressure. Simpson smirked grimly. "Noted, Commander. When the warbeasts land planetside, consider that war over and mankind saved. We'll get it done, no matter the cost. For Earth and the United Earth Federation." Simpson and his 4-man team strode up the boarding ramp of the USS Shadow, the most advanced stealth ship in the UEF fleet. "Welcome aboard, gentlemen," a feminine voice greeted them. It was Ares, the ship's powerful AI. "We'll reach Zeta Reticuli 4 in approximately 72 hours. "Plenty of time to review the plan and run some sims," Simpson said, unslinging his pulse rifle. "Ares, pull up everything we have on that Trill command center." The team gathered around a hollow table as Ares displayed a 3D schematic of the sprawling insectoid structure. Simpson traced his finger over key entry points and defensive emplacements. "Nguyen, I want you to hack into their security network the second we're planetside. Lee, find a sniper perch with good sightlines here and here. Wilson, prep charges in case we need to blast our way in or out." Over the next 3 days, the team practically lived in the Shadow's combat simulator, drilling infiltration techniques and CQB tactics against virtual Trill warriors. The Praetorian enhancements made them faster and deadlier than any human before. By the time Ares announced their approach to Zeta Reticuli 4, they were a well-oiled machine, ready for anything. "Sir, I'm detecting a significant Trill fleet in orbit," Ares reported. "At least 30 capital ships. A direct approach is not viable." Simpson swore under his breath. "Looks like we're hoofing it, boys. Ares, find us a drop zone on the other side of the planet. We'll infiltrate on the ground." "Affirmative, Major. Prepping a stealth landing craft now." As the Shadow glided into a low orbit, Simpson faced his team. "I won't mince words. This is the most important mission we've ever had. The Trill have slaughtered millions of our people. But that ends today. When we capture that bastard quasar, we cut the head off the snake. I know I'm asking you to risk your lives, but remember what we're fighting for. Earth, the UEF, the future of humanity. Whatever it takes, we will succeed." The team shouted a battle cry in unison, slamming their fists against their chest plates. They boarded the waiting landing craft, pulse rifles charged and faces grim with determination. As the craft rocketed away from the Shadow towards the planet below, Simpson whispered a final prayer. "Almighty God, protect our sorry asses down there." With a gentle thud, The craft touched down on the blood-red sands of Zeta Reticuli 4. The Warbeasts had arrived, the UEF's last hope. The hatch hissed open, and the team stepped into the harsh alien sunlight. Quasar and victory awaited. They moved out in a staggered formation, eyes peeled for any sign of Trill activity, primed to unleash their Praetorian abilities on any hapless bug they encountered. The command center and humanities. The red sands of Zeta Reticuli 4 crunched under combat boots as Simpson and his team disembarked their landing craft. The harsh alien sun glinted off their armor as they moved out, weapons at the ready. "Keep your eyes peeled," Simpson ordered over the comms. "Intel says this area is crawling with Trill patrols." No sooner had the words left his mouth than a burst of plasma fire sizzled over their heads. "Contact left," Lee yelled, dropping to one knee and returning fire with his pulse rifle. Simpson's enhanced reflexes kicked in, and he spun, spotting a squad of Trill soldiers advancing on their position. "Light 'em up, Warbeasts," Simpson barked, opening up with his own rifle. The air crackled with energy weapons discharge as the team engaged the Trill in a blistering firefight, but the Praetorian enhancements proved their worth. The Warbeasts moved faster, aimed quicker, hit harder. In a matter of seconds, the Trill patrol lay dead in the sand. "Strip their armor and weapons," Simpson ordered, already moving to do so himself. "We need to blend in if we're going to get close to that command center." A few minutes later, the team was kitted out in Trill exoskeletons, their own armor hidden beneath. They set off again, following the coordinates Ares had provided towards the towering spire of the Trill HQ, but as they crested a ridge, they encountered a disturbing sight. A group of Trill civilians, carapaces cracked and leaking ichor, were being roughly shoved into a circle by Trill soldiers. One of the soldiers raised his plasma carbine, clearly preparing to execute the helpless civilians. "So we can't just let them," Nguyen started to say, but Simpson was already moving. "Engage those soldiers," he snapped, "but watch your fire. We're not here to rack up collateral damage." The team opened up on the Trill soldiers with surgical precision, dropping them before they could even turn to face the new threat. The civilians scattered, chittering in fear and confusion. Simpson approached one who seemed less panicked than the rest. "Why were they going to kill you?" he asked in the Trill language, his suit's translator doing its work. The civilian's antennae quivered. "Because we spoke out against Quasar's endless wars. Many of us grow weary of the slaughter, but to question the supreme leader is death." Simpson's mind raced. Allies among the Trill population? That could change everything. He placed a hand on the civilian's carapace. "When Quasar falls, perhaps it will mean a new beginning for both our species." Suddenly, Simpson's comms crackled to life. It was Ares, and the AI's normally unflappable voice held an edge of urgency. "Major, the Trill have detected the shadow in orbit. They're scrambling fighters to intercept. You must reach the command center immediately, before they can lock it down." Simpson swore they had minutes, if that. "Double time it, Warbeasts, we're out of time." The team raced across the sand, pushing their enhanced bodies to the limit. The command center loomed ahead, a spiky, organic-looking structure that pulsed with sickly green lights. At the entrance, Wilson slapped a breaching charge on the pulsating door. It detonated with a muffled whoomp, and the team stormed inside, disguised as Trill soldiers. "Harris, we need a location on Quasar now," Simpson barked. "Tracking his biosignature now, Major," Ares replied. "Central command room, 400 meters northeast of your position." "Thompson with me," Simpson ordered. "The rest of you secure the perimeter. Shoot anything that isn't human or surrendering." Simpson and Thompson moved out, navigating the twisting biomechanical corridors of the Trill command center. Their HUDs pulsed with threat signatures as they neared the central command room. A squad of elite Trill guards burst from a branching passage, plasma hissing. Simpson and Thompson reacted instantly, augmented reflexes allowing them to dodge the searing bolts. They returned fire on the move, pulse rounds stitching deadly patterns across the Trill's carapaces. One Trill guard got inside Thompson's guard, lashing out with a wickedly sharp claw. It screeched across Thompson's chestplate, drawing sparks but failing to penetrate the Praetorian armor. Thompson rammed his rifle butt into the trill's face, shattering its mandibles, then put a pulse round through its compound eye. More trill guards swarmed out to block their advance, hissing challenges and loosing plasma fire. Simpson and Thompson took cover on opposite sides of the passage, whittling down the guards' numbers with precise fire. The floor grew slick with ichor and twitching limbs. Still the trill came. Simpson's earpiece crackled with Wilson's voice, barely audible over the sound of pulse fire. "Major, I've found something big. A hidden hangar with a prototype trill warship. We could steal it. Turn the tables on these bugs in orbit." Simpson ducked as a plasma bolt sizzled past his helmet, then popped up to drop the trill shooter with a double tap to the thorax. Steal a trill ship? A tempting option, but they had to prioritize. "Negative, Wilson. Stick to the primary objective. We need Quasar." Lee's voice cut in, steady as ever, despite the chaos. "Major, I have eyes on the target. Central command room, 100 meters ahead. He's got a heavy guard detail, elites from the look of it." A sinking feeling settled in Simpson's gut. The Shadow couldn't hold out much longer against the trill ships. Time was running out fast. He made the call. "Wilson, Nguyen, change of plans. Get to that hangar and commandeer the warship. Do whatever it takes to relieve the Shadow." His next words tasted bitter. "The rest of us will take Quasar." "Copy that," Wilson replied, a grim edge to his voice. "Good hunting, Major." Simpson and Thompson advanced, leapfrogging cover. Pulse rifles spitting deadly light. Trill soldiers fell before them, carapaces shattered, and ichor spraying. The central command room doors loomed ahead, heavily reinforced. "Breaching!" Thompson shouted, slapping a demolition charge on the biomechanical portal. The explosion ripped the doors apart, and the two Warbeasts stormed in, rifles leveled. The room was cavernous, dominated by pulsing organic computer banks, and there in the center stood Quasar. The trill leader was a towering specimen, carapace midnight black and eyes glittering with malice. His elite guard surged forward, plasma hissing. Simpson and Thompson opened fire, superheated rounds tearing into the trill. But these soldiers were a cut above the rest, their exoskeletons thicker. They returned fire with disciplined bursts, forcing the humans into cover. A plasma bolt clipped Simpson's shoulder, the energy dissipating across his armor's shielding. He gritted his teeth and kept shooting, downing one guard with a flurry of shots to the legs and thorax. Suddenly a trill's head snapped back, ichor spraying from a neat hole in its compound eye. Then another. Lee, providing overwatch with deadly efficiency. The sniper's precision fire sowed confusion among the guards, and Simpson and Thompson pressed the advantage. They closed in on Quasar, pulsefire and carapace cracking punches whittling down his defenses. But the trill leader was far from defenseless. He lashed out with a powerful claw swipe that sent Thompson crashing into a computer bank. "Pitiful humans," Quasar sneered, his voice a sibilant hiss. "You've already lost. Even if you take me, my forces will scour your colonies with the scouring plague. Billions will die choking on their own blood." Biological weapons. The horrifying realization sent a surge of rage through Simpson's veins. He launched himself at Quasar, a primal roar erupting from his throat. They met in a clash of armored carapace and Praetorian-enhanced human muscle. Simpson rained blows on Quasar's exoskeleton, denting and cracking the thick chitin. Quasar retaliated with scything claws and stabbing proboscis, seeking to pierce Simpson's armor. They rolled across the floor, crushing computer equipment and lesser trill underfoot. Simpson managed to wrap his arms around Quasar's neck in a chokehold, servos in his armor whining with the strain. But Quasar's claws found purchase, puncturing Simpson's suit and drawing blood. Pain lanced through Simpson's side, hot and bright. He snarled and squeezed harder, feeling Quasar's exoskeleton begin to give. The trill leader thrashed and bucked, desperation lending him strength. Thompson reappeared, armor scorched and dented, but rifle still in hand. He fired point-blank into Quasar's abdomen, ichor spraying from the stitched holes. Quasar convulsed, a high keening escaping his mandibles. But still he fought, dragging Simpson and Thompson down with him as his life ebbed away. Scrabbling claws drew more human blood and sparks from rended armor. Curses and grunts of pain filled the air alongside the meaty smacks of armored limbs on carapace. With a final titanic effort, Simpson wrenched Quasar's head to the side. The crack of snapping chitin was like a gunshot, and the Trill leader went limp. Simpson and Thompson collapsed to the floor, chests heaving and blood leaking from rent armor. "Major, the warship—" Thompson gasped out, but Simpson was already keying his comm. No response. A cold dread suffused him. Had Wilson and Nguyen failed? Was the shadow nothing more than an expanding cloud of debris? The ground shuddered, a deep bass thrum that rattled Simpson's bones. He and Thompson staggered to the nearest viewport, dreading what they might see. But instead of Trill ships bombarding the surface, they saw a sight that made their hearts soar. The prototype Trill warship, angular and predatory, diving through the orbital battle with impossible grace. Lances of searing light reached out from its flanks, bisecting Trill ships and turning the tide of battle. Wilson's voice crackled over the calm, jubilant. "Warship secure, Major. The Trill are bugging out." Simpson sagged against the viewport, relief and exhaustion mingling. They'd done it. Quasar was dead, the scouring plague halted. Humanity had a fighting chance. But the war was far from over, and as Simpson watched the Trill ships fleeing into the void, he knew this was only the beginning. The Warbeasts had drawn first blood. Now the real battle would begin. As Simpson and Quasar grappled on the floor of the command center, a desperate struggle between augmented human and Trill warlord, Wilson's voice crackled over the comm. "Prototype warship secured. We're launching now to assist the shadow." Simpson allowed himself a split second of relief before Quasar's claws raked across his faceplate, leaving jagged furrows in the composite. He retaliated with a vicious elbow strike to the Trill's throat, feeling the alien's carapace crack under the blow. In orbit, Wilson pushed the Trill warship's engines to their limit, the inertial dampeners straining to compensate. Nguyen manned the unfamiliar weapons console, struggling to make sense of the Trill interface. "Ares, I need a firing solution on that dreadnought now," Wilson shouted. "Calculating," the AI responded, its normally unflappable voice edged with static. "Solution locked, but Wilson, the probability of surviving a head-on collision at this speed—" "Just do it," Wilson snapped, his hands flying over the controls. The warship shuddered as Nguyen unleashed a barrage of searing light, the beams cutting deep into the Trill dreadnought's hull. Consoles exploded in showers of sparks, the acrid stench of burning circuitry filling the hijacked warship's bridge. Wilson gritted his teeth, his eyes locked on the looming dreadnought. "Nguyen, get to an escape pod. That's an order." "Sir, Go!" Wilson roared. Nguyen hesitated a moment longer, then sprinted from the bridge, his boots clanging on the metal deck. Alone, Wilson whispered a final prayer as he aimed the warship at the heart of the dreadnought. The collision was titanic, the two vessels disintegrating in a blinding flash of light and debris. The dreadnought's reactor went critical, the explosion engulfing nearby Trill ships. For a moment a path had opened for the shadow. In the command center, Simpson and Quasar both staggered as the ground heaved, distant explosions echoing through the structure. Simpson's heart clenched as he realized the source. Wilson's sacrifice had given them a chance, but at what cost? Quasar, ichor leaking from a dozen wounds, staggered to a nearby console. His claws danced over the organic controls, a cruel smile splitting his mandibled face. "You're too late, human. The scouring plague is primed. One command, and your colonies will drown in blood." Simpson lunged, but Quasar was faster, slamming a claw down on the console. A deep thrum filled the air, the sound of ancient machinery waking to malevolent life. Simpson's blood ran cold. The biological weapon was active. He keyed his comm, his voice ragged. "Thompson, Lee, get out of here. Get to the shadow. I'm going to try to stop this thing." "Sir, we're not leaving you," Thompson started, but Simpson cut him off. That's an order, Lieutenant. Go now. Silence, then a terse, "Yes, sir." Simpson turned back to Quasar, his rifle leveled at the Trill's head. "Shut it down, now!" Quasar laughed, a wet, gurgling sound. "You can't stop it. The scouring plague is already spreading through the distribution system. But go ahead, kill me. My work is done." Simpson's finger tightened on the trigger, but he hesitated. Simply killing Quasar wouldn't stop the plague. He needed to destroy the entire command center, cut the head off the snake. His eyes fell on a pulsing mass of tendrils and organic circuitry, the heart of the Trill computer system. And next to it, a blinking red sigil that could only mean one thing. Self-destruct. Simpson lowered his rifle and strode to the console, Quasar forgotten. The Trill leader watched, mandibles clicking in confusion, as Simpson began inputting commands. "What are you doing, human? You'll kill us both." Simpson didn't look up from his work. A small price to pay to stop your weapon, to save billions of lives. The console pulsed an angry red. The self-destruct sequence initiated. Quasar screamed in rage and fear, lunging at Simpson, but the human was already moving, sprinting for the exit as the command center shook itself apart around him. Debris rained down, consoles exploding in showers of sparks and ichor. Simpson dodged and weaved, his armor deflecting the worst of the shrapnel, but as he neared the exit, a massive support beam gave way, crashing down to block his path. Simpson skidded to a halt, his mind racing. He could hear Quasar screaming behind him, the Trill's cries mixing with the groan of overstressed metal and the roar of distant explosions. The command center was tearing itself apart, the self-destruct sequence irreversible. He keyed his comm one last time. "Thompson and Nguyen, are you clear?" "Affirmative, sir," Thompson responded, his voice thick with emotion. "The shadow's picking us up now, but sir, where are you?" Simpson looked at the collapsed beam blocking his path, then back at the steadily disintegrating command center. He closed his eyes, picturing his team, his friends. "I'm not going to make it out. Tell Ares to get you home, and tell the tell them to finish what we started. Don't let our sacrifices be in vain." "Sir," Thompson's voice broke, but Simpson cut the comm. There was nothing more to say. He'd made his choice. As the explosions grew closer, the heat searing even through his armor, Simpson thought of Earth, of the UEF, of the billions of lives he'd sworn to protect, of his team, his brothers in arms. "I'm sorry," he whispered. Then the world turned white and Major Jeffrey Simpson knew no more. Miles above, the shadow shuddered as the Trill command center exploded, the blast wave buffeting the stealth ship even through the atmosphere. On the bridge, Thompson, Lee, and Nguyen watched in horrified silence as the fireball consumed the spot where their leader had been. Ares's voice broke the stillness, somber and heavy with grief. Explosion detected at Major Simpson's last known location. No life signs detected. Thompson closed his eyes, his hands clenched into fists at his sides. Wilson, Simpson, two of the bravest men he'd ever known, gone in the blink of an eye. "Set a course for UEF space, Ares," he said, his voice rough with unshed tears. "We have a report to make." As the shadow slipped away from Zeta Reticuli 4, the remnants of the Trill fleet scattering before it, Thompson couldn't shake the feeling that this was only the beginning. The Trill's hidden colonies, their willingness to unleash biological weapons, the UEF had stumbled into a war far more complex and brutal than they'd ever imagined. But they would fight, for Earth, for the UEF, and for the memory of those who had given everything to protect them. The Warbeasts' mission was over, but their legacy had only just begun. In the shadowed halls of the UEF High Command, news of the mission's outcome spread like wildfire. Simpson and Wilson were hailed as heroes, their names etched into history. But even as the UEF celebrated their victory, grim-faced strategists pored over star maps and intel reports, plotting their next move against an enemy that had proven far more cunning and ruthless than they'd believed possible. For Thompson, Lee, and Nguyen there was no rest, no respite. The war raged on, and the Warbeasts were needed more than ever. They would mourn their fallen comrades, honor their sacrifices, but they would not stop fighting. Not until the Trill were defeated and the UEF was safe. As the shadow disappeared into the void, carrying the last of the Praetorian team towards an uncertain future, one thing was clear. The rules of engagement had changed. The gloves were off, and the Warbeasts, forged in the crucible of loss and sacrifice, would be at the vanguard of the battles to come. You have reached the end of the story. If you enjoyed this story and want to support us, please leave a like and subscribe to our channel, and for every comment that says 88, I will heart every single one of them. Thank you for your time.